everybody here. This is not a formal speech or anything like that. So if you feel you want to chip in because you've got some more updated information, please feel free to do so. I was thinking about what I was going to say today, and what I thought of was there'd be about 2 or 3 generations there, younger than me. Yes. And I'm sure you'd want to know what Grandpa Barbeau, Louis Barbeau, and what Grandma Teresa Barbeau looked like. So in a few words, I'm going to just try and describe them to you. If somebody wants to add a little bit, please feel free to add a little bit. Grandpa, especially when he was dressed up, very smart. And we lived in Heswell Road, and I remember him going out. He would wear a 3-piece suit, and he would have his walking stick.
Yeah, it's not
And
make it
I
loud.
think he also wore a hat. Is that
No
right?
sound,
He wore a
no
hat as
sound.
well.
We can't hear you, darling. We cannot hear you.
How's that now? Any better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you want me to start again?
That's okay, yes.
No, am
thank
I
you.
okay? Okay.
Fine.
And please tell me when to stop.
All right,
because I'll
darling.
stop as well. But I thought this would be interesting for children. They will want to know what their grandpa looks like. As I said, he was very smart. He had a 3-piece suit. And then you know how they had those watches that go over like that? In the old days, pocket watch. He had one of those. And he would take the bus to go into the city. That was Grandpa. He was very smart, but he had asthma. That was a big problem with him. That's what he died of. He died of asthma. And he used to speak probably the Creole language because he came from Mauritius. But I'll tell you more of that just now. Grandma, she was a dear woman. Absolutely wonderful. She had a wonderful heart. And of course her sons meant everything to her, not that her daughters didn't. But in those days, the mothers always made a big thing of their sons. And if the son had an argument with the wife, the son was always right. And of course the poor wives didn't like that. But anyway, that was Ma. We called her Ma. Now Ma wore a sari. And of course she was lucky because wherever we lived there was always a Indian community around, so she could always partake in whatever they were doing, etc. But later on in her life she switched to a white sari. It had to be a white sari. Thanks, teacher. Yeah. And then later on she stopped wearing a sari. She used to wear a long skirt. Is that right? A long skirt with a sort of a thing that went over and a blouse on the top. Yes. But short, and loved to make sure that whoever came into the home had to eat something. They never left without eating. So Ma was one that always made sure that there was food in the house. And as I said, she was wonderful in her personality, always giving, always generous. And I know for a fact that if her sons or children got into financial strife, they knew they could come to her, because whatever she had, she would give her last cent to them. So that was Ma. Now let me get back to where it all started. Now we all know that Grandpa came from France. We told through perhaps going online or what folks had to say that his family lived in France, and at some point I was working it out. My dad was born in 1902, so I thought, well, maybe in the late 1800s they could have left France. And what happened was some of the Barbeau family came to Mauritius, while some went to Canada and some went to the USA. Now, I don't know whether you've checked on Facebook. There is another Barbeau reunion in the USA. Yes, there is another. Now you go and check. You might just be able to see another Barbeau reunion, and they're quite a big gathering. But I'm not sure. I did not say this, but anyway, they're a white family, okay, in Canada, in the USA. And So we've got another family there. So that's proof that they went to the USA and they went to Canada. Anyway, going back to Mauritius, Grandpa went to Mauritius, and he must have gone with other brothers there as well, because Geraldine and Stephen, where are you? Geraldine and Stephen? Yes, Geraldine and Stephen went to Mauritius, and I think they followed it up, and they found a Barbeau connection there, and we know that there were a few brothers that ended up in Mauritius. That's right. The one that they met was a commissioner of police, and he was retired. So in Tamarin, if you're going to Mauritius. Anyway, from Mauritius, Grandpa decided to come to Natal, well, South Africa, Natal. And I'm not sure whether he developed any skills in the sugar industry while he was in Mauritius. But from what I gather, he was employed by the in the sugar industry, and at one point he was like an overseer, and he would he'd go on horseback with other workers as well, and they would go around on the plantation, and they would supervise the workers. And what had happened, Ma, on the other hand, we called her Ma, she came from India on a ship as, you know, they got these indentured laborers from India that came through. And Ma came as a young girl. I don't think she was born in South Africa. I think she was born in India. I'll tell you why. She often told us stories, because remember, Ma was with us until she died, and so was Grandpa. Ma said that they used to carry water from the river on their heads and bring it home. And she'd always say, "Filia, Ma, filia." And the head was very hard because of the weight of the water that she used to carry and bring home. So Ma came as one of those, probably her family, with her family, as an indentured labourer to South Africa. And I think it was while she was working with her family on the farms, sugar plantations, that Grandpa spotted her. And the rest is history. So that's my story, and I'm going to hand over to the next person, unless someone's got to add something to it.
Yeah, man, such a lovely story.
Thank you so much, Ali.
Who has Obi for you? That's Obi. He has 2 girls and he has 2 grandchildren.
This is part 2 of Uncle Ella's family.
This woman. He has 2 children, Tunisia and Carl. They both reside. One is a P and one is one in Cape Town, one in PE. And I also forget besides myself. Then it's me. I have 2 boys. It's Kyle and Taylor, and my wife Glenda is here as well. And that's my family. I just want to say to Eileen, I understand now where the roots come from of compassion, love, and with our grandparents. We share the same thing in our siblings, and now I understand how that comes naturally to my brothers and sisters, to share, to give, and to
my various family members, and wants to know how each one was getting on. There was no cell phones back then, and letter writing was painful, especially if he was in Zimbabwe, then known as Rhodesia. Every year my mom would bake a fruit cake, make fudge and coconut ice, and send it by train to Rhodesia for his birthday. He would then share it with folks over there. He was always trying new remedies, his various ailments, and it was my job to make salads for him. Grated carrots, chopped nuts, olive oil. What a business! Now, Uncle Edmund was very stockily built, don't know if you can remember him, and had kind of short legs. And we often went to the beach where we would race each other. My dad, Uncle Edmund, and Uncle Billy Ford, who was also in the missionary work, competed, and Uncle Edmund bragged that he was the fastest. And he was. Never mind the heart problem. Both Stephen and James Markey, Dana and I were glad for the privilege to have had him in our homes. the latter part of his life to care for him until he passed away peacefully in hospital at the age of 88. Dear Uncle Edmund, fondly remembered and appreciated by many. And just a short synopsis of my dad. Edgar Barbeau was first married to Violet and had two daughters, Margaret and Supreme. Violet died in 1945 at the age of 41 years. Margie was only 11 or 12 and Supreme 9 at the time. Edgar then realized that he needed some help to rear these two little girls. So he duly toddled off to Cape Town, where he met Callie, got married in 1946 and had two daughters, Edna and Audrey, that's me. He was an amazing, talented artisan, very creative, designed and made lots of furniture, always trying something new from money boxes, trays to built-in cupboards for kitchens and bedrooms. He was a loving, caring man, not only for his immediate family, but for others too, and his home was open to everyone. Ed and I often slept on the floor in the lounge when visitors came. He had a quirky sense of humor and was at times quite awful with Auntie Ruth's children. Whenever he told a story over and over, he always added another bit, so the story always changed. When he went fishing, the size of the fish was changed dramatically. He was very fond of young people and wanted them to have a good education and get somewhere in life. Dad couldn't sing, but he loved music. He loved to take us to listen to the Scottish band when they played in the botanical gardens. We would go by bus to see the navy boats when they were in the docks. He loved traveling, and often, nearly finished, eh? And often our car would be jam-packed, taking Auntie Ruth and children as well, only to break down along the way. Dad was the real chancer, and whenever Mom would be concerned that we were lost, he would just calmly say, "But this road must come out somewhere, even if the petrol was low." He bought a black car, which we called the old Tory. You remember that, Jazz? You remember that? And one day we went to visit Ma and Auntie Jane and family in Catermanna. We lived in Botanic Avenue at that time, and by golly, somewhere in the rear road, the car stalled and refused to move. So we had to push it back home. End of outing. Those were happy days, fun filled with lots of adventure. Thank you so much for being
Our
here.
children didn't know one another, but I regard today as new beginnings. It's the beginning of new and wonderful things. That today you have the opportunity to meet all your family, to go around. You know, we are melting pots with wonderful flavors here today. So please don't stick to your family. Move around, talk to others, get to know them, get some numbers, phone numbers. Let's connect with each other so that when we plan the next one, it's going to be so much easier because we'll all have numbers and we'll all be able to keep in contact. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask Michael to open in prayer.
I know something different about the family and about Ma and about Pa than what Eileen said, so I'm not sure.
I'd be interested to hear your story.
I believe he was a baker because we used to get cakes from him when we were young always. He was working in the bakery. And the other story is Ma worked on the farm of Pa's family. I don't know how true this is now. I might be mixed up. This is the story I grew up knowing all my life. And Pa fell in love with Ma while she was working for him. And because he married Ma, he was disowned by his family, which put him on one side. That's why we non-whites and those are born as whites today. That's the story I grew up knowing all my life. I don't know if I'm confused with this or anything. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that is part of my life, and I'm a bit confused with what I heard now. But anyway, I'll speak about my father. My father Mitchell was a very hard man. He gave us a hard time. We were 7 in a family. 4 brothers, 3 girls. which is one girl here, one in Australia, and two in Australia. The eldest and the youngest is in Australia, and she comes after me. So my eldest brother at the moment is late, and the second eldest is my sister Yvonne in Australia. Oh, sorry, I thought I was talking loud enough. All right. Anyway, and then came Arthur. Arthur is not with us because he's in hospital at the moment with a heart attack he had, and his family is not here also. And then came Jeannie, Eugene, that's his eldest daughter there, and husband Cedric that side, and the son Gerard, somewhere around there, and his family. That's Eugene's children and grandchildren. And then it's me, my wife at the back of me here, Darren and Keegan, the ones that's shaking hand there now. That's my youngest son and the eldest son. And then, of course, as I say, I have a lot of stories, they say. But my stories is not really for you all. But yes, we were brought up in Sydenham, not far from Durban, just up the road. And her story confuses me too a little bit, because when my father used to say, Edward, come up for an eye opener, Uncle Edward would say, Auntie Ruth, Mitchell wants a screw with a tin opener. So he borrowed a tin opener to go up for the screws for the eye opener. So there was a lot of, as I'm saying, they all got different stories. But that's part of the stories that we grew up with. And my father was, yes, a very good gardener, which he left with me. He strained me terribly because I was the only one that did the garden. Other brothers didn't have no duties in the garden. I had to do it all with him. So, and then of course, Odette's father, Eugene, was called Running Bear. That was his name given to him by us because every time there was a time for hiding from Eugene, Eugene jumped out the window. He was gone. Yeah. So he was named Running Bear. He always ran away. So this is the life. Because my father was very strict. As soon as he says he's going to give you hiding, go to the room. I'm going to go and fetch the switch. That which was a peachy stick, cut and all the branches off, and put those knots on, and you thresh you with your skin, tail, skin. He was a very fair man. Because when me and Eugene used to have fights,
This is Marcel speaking about his dad, Uncle Mitchell.
You want to fight now, right? Yeah? Alright, now you know you can't hit him, you don't start again. You understand? That's how it works. But you leave it until you can see you can't take it no more. Then you stop your life. That was his idea of family. He said, I don't want you fighting with one another. You'll fight together against people that want to hit you. Don't leave your brother standing and come home and tell me they're hitting him. You were there, what you did. You understand? That was his attitude. You stay there and get the hiding with him. That was it. So you couldn't go home and tell Nigel, or they're hitting Eugene, or they're hitting Arthur, because you had to stay and get the hiding with him. That's the kind of life. We all grew up, and we were very, very naughty. I'm not going to say we were innocent. We still are, some of us, right? But we were very, very naughty. I think I ran away from home at the age of 13. They all looked for me because they couldn't find me for days. And I was in the bay fishing every day.
Oh my
word! I go to the bay and I fish. I wasn't going to school. I wasn't going anywhere. And then the teacher came home with a letter. He said, well, this child is not coming to school. And that's how my family found out. After 3 months, I wasn't at school. Every day I'm going to fish. One of my uncles, before leaving for Australia, came to give me all his rods. And he said, I'm a very good fisherman. You can keep my rods and fish for me. So that's how I ended up fishing. And I still enjoy it now. But anyway, this is part of my family that I know. And I can remember going to Ma in Cater Manor in those days. I can remember Audrey and them in Botanical Avenue and in Bailey Avenue. We used to visit in those days. But when Ma died, the family broke up then, you know. There was no more visiting. And the brothers didn't even visit that much too. And I'd just like to say, I'm very glad to meet all of you here today, because I wouldn't have said I've known half of you, because I don't. I still don't know half of you as you're standing, because I don't know the grandchildren or the children. I know all the sisters and the first cousins in that way. Now I know the both families too, so I don't know. I didn't know that too one time. I had to go to a funeral to find out that there was two families that side. And I said, gosh, man. And they talk about things that about half, what do you call those half snaps and all without the full dress involved. Those snaps and all, and you don't see, you know, that they were hiding things. But everybody had this skeleton, and we didn't know the skeleton was in the cupboard.
Ah,
But
shame.
anyway, I went to Uncle George's funeral, and I found out in that late age of my, I must have been a teenager then. So, but I grew up and I played football with a cousin that I didn't know was my cousin. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, because my wife has already shouted at me. She doesn't like me to talk.
Thank you, Marcel.
Even Auntie Maud, we used to love when we were at family functions and there was music. They would dance, ballroom dancing, and all. We were waiting in the queue. We used to also get taken around the room. He was an excellent dancer.
Yeah.
Also very handsome, with very deep dimples, but really Leonor is the image of a dad. I don't know if anyone else would like to add anything. Okay, at this time we're going to do, you know, Lee worked, her son isn't well. Up until now, we were bombarding her with photos all the way through, and she took it in a stride and said, now I'll put this together. She wanted to make some fancy stuff, but she didn't really have the time, and such a lot of the photos we sent in late. But she's managed to put some together for us, besides the ones that we have displayed on boards. So while we wait for Michael to come back with the food, we will be looking at the presentation. Find yourself there, guaranteed you're there somewhere. So find a place where you'll be able to stand and you'll be able to see. Unfortunately, we don't have the proper facility, so we're making use of just the sheet on the wall. So please try and get closer so that you can see. So over to you, Lee.
But I can remember. I was standing outside the house. I'm trying to wash it down because my husband's here. So I was standing outside the house, and Uncle George, because we had an outside toilet, and Uncle George was going to the toilet, and then he caught us outside. And this boyfriend of mine scaled the fence. He was gone. And I came inside. He said, Manis, come here. So he said, where's that boy? I said, oh, Uncle George, oh, he's gone home. But he was smart. He went home and he changed his sweater. So he came like with a different shirt, thinking Uncle George wouldn't recognize him. Because he didn't have kids, he didn't know what to say to him. So he said, come here, my boy. And he brought him inside and he's saying, you know, when you come here and you see my niece, come and sit inside. How are we going to sit inside in front of everybody? So anyway, he gave him a long speech as if the man's going to marry me. I was so cross. Anyway, that was that. Then another time he came to my house and he said, Rita, I want to use the phone. And Uncle George never swore. Never, ever. His biggest swear word was bloody. Yes. But seldom, or bugger. He never swore often. No, he never swore in our company because he taught us not to swear. Anyway, he was retrenched from his work at the tailor. Yeah, he was retrenched. Level and pulp, yeah. So he came to my place and he said, oh, can I use your telephone? And the way the house was situated, you could hear everyone, you know, talk on the phone. So he was talking to this guy, and I could see he was really depressed. And then he said, after he had the phone call, I said, "What happened, Uncle George?" He said, "The bloody bastard." Oh my! I was so taken aback. And he said, "I worked with them so bloody long, and this is what they do to me." He was totally disgusted. But as Michael said, he was such a neat, tidy. I can remember him putting his shoes like in a row and polishing them. I've never ever seen the man in his undies or anything. He always was so respectful, you know. And today, how you guys walk? He didn't. Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending.
He was bestman for 3 of his brothers, and he looked tops. And you know, he had that
Speaking
very
about Uncle
sharp
Albert.
French Barbeau nose, and we were so proud of him to call him uncle. And because he lived with us, and we, as Rita would say, I would have said that he was like our third dad. And come Christmas time, we never really went out much, but we always went on Christmas picnics with the family. And in those days, transport was so difficult, so he used to hire one of these sand trucks, you know, with the payloader that lifts tips the sand over. But we thought that was it for us. We were excited. And he got us all loaded onto that tip truck and took us to the beach. So that was one of our things that we would never forget. That was our time as family. And we really enjoyed that. He was not a man of many words, but he loved each and every one of us. In fact, he spoiled our children, especially Eileen's little boy. When he was little, he went to the Cape and he spent some time there as well, but always obliging. He was, I think it was Israel's aunt, mom, the younger sister, Joan, that really was very, very fond of him. And used to knit him the beautiful jerseys and always take it to the movies when he came down, but never ever made a commitment.
Yeah,
There would have been 3 sisters and 3 brothers married to each other. But anyway, that was Uncle Albert, and as I can say,
Rosie,
he spent.
tell them about Mommy and Uncle Albert and you and Rita crying. You and Rita crying with Uncle Albert.
Oh yes, this incident is the last one. Sorry. Well, they each used on a Friday was their dog night. And they used to come home nice and tipsy. And Uncle Albert tended to be very emotional when he was tipsy. And he would say to Rita and I, the following day it was bubbleized, and his body used to ache. I don't know whether he used to fall or whatever. And he says, "Come and walk on my back and massage my back." So it was me and then Rita. He wouldn't like me because Rita was much heavier than me, and he enjoyed that. And then he used to sit down on the bed and we on either side of him, and he used to cry.
Oh dear.
He says he's feeling sorry for himself. Why is he crying? He says, "Nobody loves me." And Rita and I used to sit and cry with him. There comes Mommy. Mommy says, "What are you crying for?" He says, "Uncle Albert says nobody loves him." So he says, "Then why are you crying?" She said, "Get to bloody bed. He's having a drink and he's drunk." And then when that was over, Rita and I used to riffle his pockets with a small change. That was our payment.
Tuesday. And it's so nice to see all my cousins here and the extended family. Faces I have seen for the first time today, especially the little one. and welcome to everybody. But as you all know, I'm Dolly's daughter, and she's only giving me a few minutes. I've got a lot to say about my mom. As you all know, Dad and Mom were teachers, and that's where they met in Peter Manor. And Grandfather was a very strict man. And of course, you know the 9 brothers story. And my father was so brave. He wasn't Christian, he was Hindu. And she said, "No, how are you going to come to my house to ask for me? My father and my brothers, oh, they're chasing away." So he was a very brave man. I must admire my dad. And he built up all the courage. That's the city's praise, I don't know. And we went up to the Barbeau big mansion in Transfer Road. And he knocked on the door, and who came forward? Grandpa. So what do you want here? He said, "No, I came to talk to you and ask you your permission to marry your daughter." So I think they must have spoken over whatever. So he said, "Okay, if you want to marry my daughter, you have to convert yourself." So he went to church, he converted, and only then he was allowed to marry Mummy. Mummy got married at the St. Anne's Church in Sydenham. And thereafter, she had Jeannie, okay, my late sister, and then she had me. And apparently, when she was pregnant for me, I didn't want to, she was due to deliver me, and I just didn't want to come out. So my father was pacing and pacing and pacing. He's getting late for school now. And anyway, my grandma said, what do you call this? The ladies that used to come,
the midwives
used to come over. And even that didn't help. She said, "No, we have to get a doctor now." So the doctor actually came. He came and he asked Grandma, "Do you want your daughter or do you want the baby?" And she said, "I want both." And that's why I stand here today. I stand here, a proud granddaughter of the Barbeau gang. I can go on and on. Jeannie's children are coming. I'm sorry my children couldn't make it. I only got 3 years in South Africa, and they were all unavailable today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Priscilla. Very nice.
Cecile was born in November. Okay. Cecile was the youngest of all the children of the Barbeau family, and she was born in November 1926. And from what I gather from Auntie Jane, Auntie Ruth, whatever stories they could tell me, I had to glean the history of my mom. And apparently she was very loved and spoiled by the family, and she was, I think Auntie Marley convinced her at a very young age to join her, and she left school at a very young age to join Auntie Marley in the clothing factory. And they always spoke very kindly of her because she was supposedly this very sweet, loving kind of person and loving aunt. And when Auntie Marie married Uncle George Samuel, who was my dad's uncle, my grandfather's half brother. So Dad was bestman, and that's where he met Cecile, my mom. So my dad was Louis Newton Barker, and I think Auntie Jane tells me how he pursued my mom, and Auntie Jane used to tell me that, oh, she used to say, "Jane, this boy is worrying me, Jane." He would cycle from Malvern to Cater Manor to go and visit my mom, and they were married on the 21st of January 1950, and from that union there were 4 children. Robert the eldest, he's now 67, he couldn't be here today. Then Brian, who's coming along there with my husband. Brian is 65. Then I followed, the only girl that survived, I should say. I'm 63, and Roy couldn't make it today. Roy is 61.
He's in Johannesburg. Very sadly, Mom wanted other children so badly, and she couldn't understand why this other baby was taking so long to come. So my Auntie Terry on the Barker side told me, and when she did conceive, she did not know she had rheumatic heart disease. So she succumbed at the end of that pregnancy to rheumatic heart disease, which complicated that pregnancy. And that was a little girl. And well, if I tell you that I was 6, Roy was 5, so what Roy and I remember was not really anything as traumatic maybe as Robbie and Brian, who were older. And with my father being this very, very reliable, very responsible person, I think that he did not really let us feel that trauma. Because we were surrounded, it was a farm, we lived in Malvern, and on that farm we had my gran on the Barker side with my uncles and aunts. So I would say we were always surrounded by family. It was 2 houses on a 13-acre fruit farm. And our Barbeau relatives always came to visit. And the sad thing is that I felt that we didn't see enough of Mom. We didn't really see enough of our granny because those days transport was, but oh, Audrey and Edna, I know, and Auntie Ruth used to come with their cake for Sunday tea. But I would say that with the responsible kind of father that we had, he met and married our stepmom, and I would say that together they helped to really build a strong family, and we're grateful to the Almighty for that. And very sadly, Mary, who was actually teaching at Epsom Road with Dad, she succumbed after, I think it was the first marriage was 11 and a half years, and he married Mary in 1964, and she passed away with a brain tumor in 1983. And that was very traumatic for Dad. We could see now we were grown, and we could see the sadness and the loss, but never to be beaten. My father, the true gentleman, went up the road and he met Auntie Queenie Leaf. And he married Auntie Queenie, and they were so happy. My father was truly blessed to have met somebody really wonderful. And they were married in 1986 September, and Dad developed prostate cancer and he died in August 2008. But I would say with his teaching career and with very responsible people at his side, my brothers and I were very fortunate. And I feel very sad for my friends and family who lose their mothers later in life, because I can see the trauma and the sadness, you know, that we couldn't really feel because we did not understand. We were so young. But, well, Robert is a carpenter, and he's married to Jillian, and he's got 2 sons. The youngest is younger than my Lat Lamaki. He's turning 13. And Brian has got a son, Erwin, who's here with his wife, and 2 daughters. And I have 2 daughters, Lee and Lynn. And Roy has 2 stepsons. He's up in Johannesburg. And he's just very sad that he couldn't be here today. Thank you, everyone.
He got it from his mother.
This is Uncle Benji's granddaughter.
And most likely you have to drink something. You know, the heavier stuff, definitely. That's what I think my mother gets it. If you look at my mother, you'll know what my grandpa looked like. They're the same.
Yeah.
I've got an auntie as well in Australia, Auntie Nikki. So my grandpa just had the 2 daughters. My granny's there. He's got 5 grandkids and about 5 great-grandkids. So everybody just, same as Auntie said, a person who never, like your father, I don't think he's ever hit his children. He never shouted at us. He used to run and walk around. Never ever. I've never seen my grandpa get upset about anything. So they just seem like they all those jovial people that are just easygoing. And I've never ever heard any bad words about them. They're just pleasant people. So that's what I know. Oh yeah, well, Fan used to shout to me. She'll probably know one or two things that she can tell you. Yeah, thank you.